we roll back. Some rock, some wind, some 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 wind. Some rock, some wind, some roll back. Some rock, some wind, some roll back. Some rock, some wind, some roll back. Some rock, some wind, some wind. Some rock, some wind, some roll back. Some rock, some wind, some roll back. Some rock, some wind, some roll back. Some rock, some wind, some roll back.
My name is Elliot Nutter and welcome to the very first UQ Motoring Club versus UQR Team Championships, the eChampionships. This is the very first event of its kind where everything is live. So we have the sims located in the Gamers Ground here at UQ, and so a massive thanks to Pagnian who have supplied these sim rigs. Our other sponsors today are Computer Alliance, Intel, Cooler Masters, the Republic of Gamers, obviously the Gaming Ground where we are today, and the UQ Union Esports. Alright, so just a general information about the competition today. So we have and they have presented their top 7 drivers. We're racing at today is Laguna Seca, located in America, with the Ferrari 458 GT2 car as the selected weapon of choice. So, track settings. Talking about the track today, so Laguna Seca has quite a lot of undulations. There is a lot of elevation change, which can unsettle the car, particularly in the corkscrew. The corkscrew is a very exciting corner here, which is the jut you can see out in the top right corner. The track is set to 22 degrees today, and the temperature of the tyres might play a big role, where you can overheat the tyres and they will become slipperier as the race continues. We're just waiting for the first 2 races to settle in here, and they will be Garry.W representing the UQ Motoring Club and Callum representing the UQ Racing Team. Now in qualifying, Callum ran a 1 minute 33 seconds, and Garry managed to put in a 1 minute 30. However, the times in the qualifying aren't everything in this sort of race. It might come down to whoever makes the least amount of mistakes. It's all well and good putting in a fast lap in qualifying, but can you do it in the race? So we're counting down here, about 35 seconds to go. So in the purple you have the UQ Racing Team, so that's Callum, and we have the blue UQ Motoring Club car with Garry.W. Look at Callum having a stretch there. Garry intensely focused. And we're lights up. This is the inaugural UQ versus UQR eChampionship. Lights away. Lighting up the tyres does Garry. They're both away cleanly though. No stalling here. Callum on the inside, covering off into the Andretti hairpin. Most racers choosing to whack it back into first gear. Callum has a nice exit there into turn 3. No real margin being able to pull out here. Over 200 k's an hour. Heading into turn 6.
Turn 5 is P1. Garry.W is P2.
Big elevation change here coming up the hill.
Callum in Rahal straight is P1.
Intensely as they go down into the corkscrew. Both managed to get through there without a hitch. Running back through the gears, through the rainy curve.
Callum is P1.
What a good shot there.
Garry.W is P2.
Into the last turn, turn 11. Again, most racers choosing to whack it back down into first gear here. Get the maximum drive off the corner, down the pit straight.
Callum is P1.
Callum opening up a little bit of a lead there over Garry. 2.5 seconds. Hard on the brakes for the double apex of the Andretti corner.
Callum in Andretti hairpin is P1. Best lap is a 1:33.4.
Garry runs it just a little bit wide. Callum getting up the road there. The gap extending to about 3 seconds now. We've got our helicopter there.
Callum from Australia in turn 4 is P1. 3.4 ahead of Garry.W.
What a good shot from inside the car.
Callum is P1. 4.7 ahead
So
of
Callum
Garry.W.
extending his lead now.
Garry.W is P2.
4 seconds up the road. And listen to those 4.5 litre V8 of the Ferrari screaming away. 6,200 RPM.
Callum in the corkscrew is P1. Garry.W is
Garry
P2.
coming into the corkscrew, runs it deep. Over the curb.
Callum in turn 10 is P1. Garry.W is P2.
The gap now over 5 seconds. Garry's got a lot of work to make up here. The brakes glowing. I reckon his back tyres will be getting quite toasty now. Pushing hard to try and make up that gap.
Garry.W is P2 on supers.
The intense focus on Callum's face there, if we could see through the visor. A little bit of oversteer there from Garry. Those rear tyres will be screaming in pain.
Garry.W is P2.
Third out of 5 laps. So the situation for the points, this race will be worth 2 points. The race after this will also be worth 2 points. The consecutive 3 races will be worth 1 point, and the fastest 2 pairs of races will also be worth 2 points. Each race is 5 laps long, and the qualifying has determined who will be racing who. With the gap about 10 seconds now, you would say that Callum has this in the bag as Garry runs a little bit wide round rainy corner there. As I was saying before, qualifying doesn't mean all that much in these races. Most drivers are quite close in terms of pace, but it will come down to who can be consistent throughout the race. It's all well and good you can bang in one hero lap, but can you keep it up for 5 in a row? Got to look after those tyres and keep your concentration. You can see Garry there bouncing around. He has the chair hydraulics turned on. However, most racers have decided to keep this off. They think it's a bit
Best lap
distracting.
is a 125.684. Garry.W is P2.
13 seconds the gap now.
Callum.M in turn 6 is P1. Garry.W is P2.
The racers have the choice of ABS and traction control. They can choose to have them on, or how on or off they would like, but other things are set. So the tyres we're on today are the super softs, and they have no wear. However, they will heat up and cool down, and that will affect their grip.
Callum.M from Australia is P1.
Rainy curve there, Garry going around it. Callum quite a fair way up the road there, out of shot. Callum has just crossed the line onto the final lap. Quite a good lead there, 13 odd seconds. You would say he quite convincingly has this one, unless something considerably exciting happens.
Callum.M in turn 3 is P1. Garry.W is P2.
So Callum already through turn 4 as Garry goes through turn 2. The carbon fibre engine cover there.
Callum.M in turn 5 is P1 on supers.
Garry's car looking a little bit dirty from his excursion through the gravel earlier. Callum has a little bit of a smile on his face there. He knows what he has to do. Only a few corners left.
Callum.M in Rahal Straight is P1 on supers. Garry.W is P2.
And Callum coming home for the victory here.
Garry.W in the corkscrew on lap 5 is P2.
Coming down the main straight, crossing the finish line. Well done, Callum. Picks up 2 points for the UQ Racing team.
Has just finished the race. Callum.M finished P1.
And Garry has put it in the grass. Condolences to him. And there we go, Garry across the line for second position and no points. So the 2 points from this race go to Callum from the UQ Racing team.
Callum.M finished P2. Garry.W finished P2. Callum.M finished P1.
And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen.
Garry.W finished P2.
Yes, please. Alrighty, so here we go. The team lineups representing the UQ Racing team. We have Lachlan.C, Mitchell Anderson, Ed Hassel, Bradyen.K, Felix.M, sorry for butchering people's names there, James Peterson and Callum.M, who just picked up the win against Garry.W. And representing the UQ Motoring Club, Ian.X, Piyapol.P, Byron Maxwell, Scott Groom, Aaron.T, Cooper.J, and Garry.W.
The race session is at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca in Monterrey, USA. Broadcast entering the pits is P1.
And so we're just looking at the leaderboard now. And so we can see in race 1 we had Callum.M versus Garry.W, with the race win going to Callum.M. So that race was worth 2 points. The race between James and Cooper will also be worth 2 points. However, the next 3 races after that are only worth 1 point. And then the 2 fastest pairs, Mitchell Anderson, Piyapol, Lachlan and Ian, those races will both be worth 2 points as well. And 2 points were also awarded to the team with the fastest qualifier, and that was Ian with a qualifying time of a blistering 1 minute 22.89 seconds. So that was an extra 2 points going to the UQ Motoring Club. Now, the track we are racing at today is Laguna Seca in America. 11 corners with lots of elevation change. The world-famous corkscrew corner, which dips about 15 metres in the space of 100 metres of run.
Cooper.J is P3 on
In qualifying, I saw many racers have a bit of a spin here, and track limits are also hard to keep in there, as many racers run a little bit deep and go over the corner. So we've got 1 minute and 40 seconds to go before we have race number 2 here. James Peterson versus Cooper.J. And I will try and pull up the qualifying times so we can see how close of a race we might be in for. So, qualifying times. James Peterson, we don't actually have a time for, as he has come a little bit late, but Cooper.J whacked in a 1:27.54. But as we've said before, qualifying is not everything. So the settings that the racers can play with today, they can change the ABS and traction control to their liking. However, everything else is set. The car is a sequential manual, 4.5 litre V8 Ferrari, making 350 kilowatts or 460 horsepower, with a red line of 6,250 RPM. An interesting note about the car is the road version of the Ferrari actually makes more horsepower than the race version. But some more statistics about the car. It has won the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 2012 and 2014, and the 12 Hours of Sebring in 2012, and has claimed various championships around the GT series. So it's quite an accomplished car, and hopefully these racers can pilot it to victory. So lights up here, Cooper versus James. Lights out, and away we go. Cooper smoking the tyres as they head down the straight. We'll hopefully get that action to you in a minute. Heading into the Andretti corner. There we go. Now we've got the vision. Oh, some close racing. Cooper getting a little bit squirrely out of the Andretti corner into turn 4. Oh, Cooper getting squirrely again. As I said before, tyre wear does not exist, but tyre temperature does. And the hotter your tyres get, the slipperier they will become. Little bit of a gap opening up here. James getting a little bit of breathing room. Cooper a little bit slow into there, but we won't hold him to that. The intense focus on their faces. Look at this. Heading up the Rahal straight to the corkscrew. They'll whack the brakes on the left-hand ripple strip there. Cooper running a tiny bit deep. Oh, and he's spun! He has spun! Cooper has spun! Can he make up the ground? Can he get back on track quick enough? James smiling away there. Knows all he has to do is really get it home now. He has overcooked it on the first lap, has Cooper. Such a shame. A good view of the rainy curve there as he's furiously got to make up some ground now. Running wide again, pushing very hard. Here we are in the cockpit of James here in the control of the race over a fair way up the road, shall we say. Cooper coming into the Andretti corner, while James already up to turn 3. Cooper getting a little bit squirrely there. Those tyres will be screaming in pain. Not only do they have the dust of that excursion off the track, but his constant sliding action will be heating them up and making them even harder to drive on. Oh, understeer there from Cooper. There comes a time where you push too hard and the car simply will not reward you for that extra pace. So we can see the racing line there on the screen. That is the red, green and yellow line there. So obviously red means you should be braking, green accelerating. It is quite conservative, so you will see the racers ignoring it at some points.
Jeffrey is P2.
The racers cannot see that racing line there. They have to go without. But it is good for you and I to see where they're running.
Australia and Ed.H hairpin is P1. Cooper.J is P2.
Speeds in excess of 200 km an hour down the front straight here. Heading into the Andretti hairpin, they will whack the car down into first gear. No sympathy on the car there, but that's okay. It will not wear down. Racers also choose to use first gear in corner 5, the corkscrew, and the final corner, corner 11, as they come onto the main straight, just to get that extra bit of drive. They have to be careful to mediate the throttle after they do put it in first gear, though, not to light up the tyres and cause those heat problems that I mentioned earlier.
Cooper.J is P2. James Peterson is P1. Best lap is a 1:28.834. Cooper.J is P2.
So lap 3 of 5 here. James Peterson is a fair way up the road.
Jeffrey is P2.
And again, a thank you to our sponsors, Computer Alliance, Intel, Cooler Masters, Republic of Gamers, and the Gaming Ground, where we are here today, and the simulator supplied by Pagnian. And what fine rigs they are, allowing the racers to feel like they're in the real car. Cooper running a little bit wide there, a bit of dust on those tyres. That will hurt you in the long run.
James Peterson is P1 on supers. Cooper.J is
So
P2.
another not particularly close race here with James running away with it. Looks like another. Looks like another victory to the UQ Racing team here.
James Peterson in turn 10 is P1. Best lap is a 1:27.512.
So the best lap in this race was a 1:27.5 to James. Cooper's best lap so far is a 1:28.2.
Cooper.J is P2.
Pushing hard is Cooper, but it's all a little bit too little too late. The brakes glowing. On the final lap we go.
In Andretti hairpin is P1. Cooper.J is P2. James Peterson is P1. Cooper.J is P2.
A little bit of oversteer from Cooper there. He's pushing too hard. Those tyres are well overcooked by now.
James Peterson on lap 5 is P1. Cooper.J is P2.
So James going through the corkscrew now. Only a few corners to go and he will have those 2 points in the bag for the UQ Racing team. It might have been a close race, but unfortunately Cooper had a bit of a spin on the first lap in the corkscrew, as we saw many people do in qualifying. As I said before, it's not about who's the fastest, it's about who can be the most consistent, the least amount of mistakes.
The leader has just
so there you go. James
Peterson
across the
finished
line,
P1.
taking the victory. And Cooper has still a fair bit to go. And across the line is Cooper. There we go.
Cooper.J finished P2.
Checkered flag here in the race 2 of the UQ Motoring Club versus UQ
James
Racing
Peterson finished P1.
eChampionships. So, maybe a little bit of information about the races you just saw. So, Cooper.J, who was representing the UQ Motoring Club, is 22 years old and studying electrical engineering at the University of Queensland here. He's the president of the UQ Motoring Club and once jumped a median strip and binned an MX-5. And that driving was potentially shown today with his mistake at the corkscrew there. And James, for the UQ Racing team, is also 22 years old. He's a part-time mechanical aeronautical engineering student and loves chocolate milk. A man of character there. It is also worth noting, thank you to Red Bull. They sponsor the Gamers Ground here with complimentary Red Bull to all the participants. Alrighty, so we're just setting up the next race here.
Laguna Seca in Monterey, USA. Broadcast entering the pits is P1.
And you might notice the broadcast timer on the left there. Just ignore that. That is just me in the race so I can see all that's going on. And also so that we can bring that vision to you. Alrighty, so here is the leaderboard. So another 2 points going the way of UQ Racing. So they have 4 points worth of racing. However, it is worth mentioning that the UQ Motoring Club picked up the 2 points for the fastest qualifier. So the scores are really 4-2. But it is not looking good for the UQ Motoring Club. Already 2 points behind. So our next race will be Felix versus Aaron. Now, Felix is 20 years old. He is a mechanical engineer here at the University of Queensland, as well as economics. He loves rock climbing, volleyball, and says that strawberry milk is better than chocolate milk. That is very debatable right there. And now, for the UQ Motoring Club, we have Aaron.T, who is 27 years old and has finished his mechanical engineering degree. Got his driver's license 3 months ago. Wow. And he's also a massive F1 fan. Let's see if his racing on the track is as good as his driving on the real tarmac. So if you're worried about COVID, don't be. The sims are wiped down and disinfected after every race. And everyone who is not racing is wearing masks unless they are drinking a delightful Red Bull. The simulation program we're using today is Assetto Corsa. And so there are a few around that can be used. However, in the Gamers Ground, Assetto Corsa is installed on both simulators and is able to play whenever the Gamer Ground is open. Alright, we're just going to have a short break while we disinfect those simulators and have a quick refresher.
rolling. This is how we rock. This is how we win. This is how we rolling. This is how we rock. This is how we win. This is how we rolling. nerves, time to get them living life for the next drop. Nerves, time to get them living life for the next drop.
Are they on pole because they won the previous race? Yes. Maybe they were doing a classic. Welcome back to the UQ Motoring Club versus UQ Racing eChampionship, the very first of its kind where everything is live. We are about 30 seconds away from the next race between Felix and Aaron. So Felix will be representing the UQ Racing team and Aaron versus the UQ Motoring Club. There they are there. Felix, big smile on the face. Aaron, shoulders of steel here as he has to carry the UQ Motoring Club, who are currently 2 points behind after 2 races. Alright, here we go. Not far away now. Lights up. And away, both smoking the tyres there. Get away cleanly. Aaron looks to have the run, poking his nose up the inside into the first corner. They're side by side. Oh, it's close. Back into first gear for the Andretti hairpin. And Aaron comes out on top. Oh, but he's wide, he's spinning. Oh, contact is made. How are we going to redress this? Felix is taking the lead, which is probably a fair play there. There are adjudicators in the room, so they will sort this out if something has gone astray. Alright, and everything seems to have settled down again, so we've got more racing heading our way. Felix followed by Aaron. Brakes glowing red there. Oh, Aaron up the inside. What a move! Into turn 6, you can take this one almost flat if you've got balls of steel. Aaron keeping his lead there, coming into the corkscrew. Both running it deep in there. Oh. But getting through unscathed. Around rainy curve there, what a shot. So the gap about half a second now, but that could all change in an instant. Running wide does Felix. You see the gravel being kicked up. That'll hurt his time. The tyres will be dirty. When the tyres are hot, the gravel sticks to them, which loses you even more grip. Aaron, a second down the road here. That small mistake from Felix really hurting now. It's all about being consistent, not making mistakes. The Andretti hairpin, it's a double apex corner there. You can see Felix running just a little bit wide. Turning into turn 3. Running a little bit wide again. Probably had a line a bit too shallow for that amount of speed he was taking. And the dirty tyres will not be helping him. A little bit of oversteer, but nothing too severe. As we see Aaron up the road around the next corner. So, qualifying times for these two. Aaron had a 1 minute 24.7. Quite a very respectable lap time there. And Felix had a 1 minute 30. So a little bit different times there, and it is showing in this race, with Aaron about 4 seconds up the road after 2 laps. A little bit of information about these two if you didn't hear before. So Aaron is 27 years old and has finished his mechanical engineering degree, and he only got his driver's license 3 months ago. Oh, as Felix is in the dirt there. Getting back on the track. All Aaron has to do now is get to the end. No heroics, just needs to get it to the end of the race. Damage and tyre wear don't exist, nor does fuel burn, so he only has himself to blame, and spinning off the track is really the only reason he could throw it away at this point. That concentration on Aaron's face there, as well as Felix. So, what about some information about Felix? Well, he is 20 years old, studying a double degree in mechanical engineering and economics, likes rock climbing, volleyball, and very controversial, says strawberry milk is better than chocolate milk. That statement right there might be the cause of his lackluster performance here. Runs it wide at turn 6 there. So again, most racers choosing to whack it back in first gear for the corkscrew. Get that extra bit of drive off the corner. Just have to be careful you don't light up the tyres and go for a bit of a spin. So onto the 4th lap now is Aaron. Cool, calm and collected there. If you listen to the audio there, you can hear the 4.5 litre naturally aspirated V8 of the Ferrari 458 GT2 car, pumping out 350 kilowatts with a red line of 6,250 RPM. The wonderful visuals you are seeing are that of Assetto Corsa, one of many games you can play on the gaming ground Pagnian simulators. Aaron will be getting close to the final lap here, and this will help claw the scores back. So after this race, the standings will be 4 points to the UQ Racing team and 3 points to UQ Motoring Club. Felix running very deep into the corkscrew there. It is worth mentioning, if you cut the corners, the game will penalise you. And there we go, Aaron onto the last lap now, as Felix again runs wide. It's not a sprint, it is a marathon. Going for a bit of an expedition in the gravel as well. Pit road just ahead of him there, although you won't need this in this race, as tyre wear and fuel burn is negated. We're on super soft tyres, and the track is at 26 degrees, so optimum conditions for racing. The only thing you really have to worry about is the tyre temperature, which if you're lighting up the tyres, they will get hot and they'll get even slipperier. So it's a bad circle to be in. The brakes glowing red there, but no fade, as there is no damage to the cars. That might also be another reason why players are more prone to just smashing it back into first gear for many of these corners. If you were doing that in an endurance race, the car might not like you for it. There we go, Aaron crossing the line, taking out the victory, closing the scores up 4-2 as Felix takes a big hit in the wall there. But this Ferrari is made out of diamonds and it does not take a hit. Just waiting for Felix to finish the race there. What a good view of the rainy curve. Well done, Aaron. Do some donuts, celebrate your victory. Feel free to leave a comment in the Twitch chat there. There we go, both boys finishing the race. And we'll set up and disinfect those simulators ready for the next round. Right, so let's have another look at that leaderboard. So we can see Aaron picking up the 1 point for the UQ Motoring Club. And you can see that 2 asterisks next to Ian's name. That is because he was the fastest qualifier, picking up another 2 points for the UQ Motoring Club. So the overall standings are 4 points to 3 in favour of the UQ Racing team. Now, our next matchup will be Bradyen from UQ Racing and Scott Groom from the UQ Motoring Club. Now, Bradyen. Information about Bradyen. He is 22 years old, an electrical engineer at the University of Queensland. Also likes rock climbing and rugby union. And there's something here about 92 Sushi Vitara. Oh, that might be a 92 Suzuki Vitara. Some poor handwriting in front of me here. And he, also, a very controversial statement, strawberry milk better than chocolate milk. We'll see if that has the same effect as Felix's driving from before. Alright, so once again, that UQ Motoring Club lineup. We've got Ian, Piyapol, Byron, Scott, Aaron, Cooper and Garry. So Scott is the next person up there. So, what do we know about Scott? Well, he doesn't go to UQ, unfortunately. He's 20 years old and studies aeronautical and electrical engineering at QUT. He drives a Mark II Blit, which is basically just a wagon version of a Supra. And he once drove a Supra with Koichi Tsukoya. Wow, that is quite exciting, Scott. Hopefully that driving experience rubs off and he gets the points today. So we've got just over a minute to go before this next race. Scott having a stretch there, Bradyen settling in. So what were their qualifying times? Scott, on his very last lap of qualifying, managed to put in a 1 minute 23.97, and Bradyen managed to have a 1:29.83. So we are running a reverse grid race, so the person who qualified second actually takes pole position. And as we saw in the last race, that can lead to some exciting overtaking. There are 2 methods of starting the race. So once you get going, it is a sequential gearbox. You can just hit the pedals and the car will take care of it for you. But pulling off the mark, you can either choose to use the clutch and try and feed in the power progressively, or just let the computer take control and just plant your foot and away you go. We've seen in earlier races, the computer taking control tends to lead to a bit of wheel spin, but it doesn't make all that much difference. Here we go, lights coming up, concentration faces on, and away we go. Both probably choosing the computerized starting there, both lining up the tyres. Scott has the drive, takes him on the inside within the first 200 metres. Heading down to the Andretti hairpin, both smacking it back into first gear. It's a double apex this. Cold tyres to start with, both running a tad wide. Bradyen getting the back out a little bit. Onto the brakes into turn 3. A little bit of a right hand straight into turn 5. And that starts the ascent towards turn 6. If you get turn 6 just right, you can take it flat out. Oh, a little bit of oversteer from Bradyen there. Nipping a bit of gravel. That will also hurt his grip. There we go, up the hill towards the corkscrew. Run late in there. Right, so we've locked our camera onto Scott, who's in first place currently, 6 seconds up the road from Bradyen. In the cabin of Scott there, as we go up the hill towards turn 6, taking that relatively flat. Towards the corkscrew, braking right on the ripple strip, darts it in, over the right curve, takes that very well. A little bit of squirreling on the way out. Round the rain curve, as Bradyen is going into the corkscrew, and he's turned it around onto the gravel on the second lap. It's going to be a hard fight to come back from that. He's now about 30 seconds down the road. This is not a sprint, it is a 5-lap race. You've got to make it to the end of the race without making a major mistake to have a chance. As we go back to Scott, who's coming around. Bradyen crossing the line, starting his 3rd lap. As Scott is coming into turn 5 there, heading up the hill towards the corkscrew, as Bradyen takes another excursion into the gravel. Into turn, second to last there. Will he bang it back down into first? Yes, he does for the final corner. Gets a good drive, mediating the throttle down the pit straight. There might even be a chance for a lap here, as Bradyen is over half a lap behind. As he's coming into the corkscrew now, Scott is only 2 corners away. Lucky we don't have to pay for the helicopter there, as Scott runs a little bit wide. Will that be enough to let Bradyen have another look? He might be too far behind to make anything of it. So on the second last lap here, the lovely graphics of Assetto Corsa and that nice eRacing livery. A little bit dirty on the underside there, as Bradyen has been off-roading. Luckily no damage is taken, as damage is turned off for today's races. Running a little bit wide there, back into the gravel. Have to break out the pressure washer and the soap. Get it ready for the next person. As Scott comes round and is on the final lap. Slides it into the Ed.H hairpin there. Pulls it up nicely in first gear. Keeps those tyres in check. Brings it down into second. Always hit the sausage. A colloquial term for those red bollards on the inside of the turn there. They will upset the car a lot if you do hit them. Up the hill towards the corkscrew. Now for Scott on his final lap. Taking that corner relatively flat, as Bradyen is just coming around onto his final lap. How will Scott take the corkscrew? We won't know, because we're looking at Bradyen coming around. Running wide. Scott not quite hitting that apex, but that's okay. One corner to go, and he will cement this victory and pull back the scores in the UQ Racing versus UQ MC eChampionship. Down the main straight there. Does a little flicky into the wall. We won't watch the end of that. Scott is a keen drifter when he's not in the simulator. He's probably doing some donuts here. Let's have a look. Yes, there we go. Good bit of tyre smoke there. And he can do that indefinitely because the tyre wear is turned off. As we watch Bradyen come into the corkscrew. Cutting that corner just a little bit, but not enough that the game feels like he has gained time. As Scott's having some more fun there, going to be ready. As Bradyen comes along the main straight, second place. And that will end this session. So with that, the scores are level, 4 points each to UQ Motoring Club and UQ Racing. We'll get those rigs wiped down and ready for another round. Oh, well, that was exciting, don't you reckon? All right. So again, Red Bull, complimentary in the gaming ground. We might go to a quick break. Oh, well, you can see the leaderboard there, scores tied up at 4 points all. And we'll have a quick break. Pardon? Wait. We have Ed Hassel versus Byron Maxwell. Very close into the Andretti hairpin there. Whoa, Byron getting a little bit sideways. Ed running a little bit wide. Looking up the inside for Byron. A little bit wide from Ed. Could this be the chance? Getting in the slipstream. Down towards turn 5. This could be a passing opportunity. Byron having a look there. Not making anything of it. Oh, he's pulled alongside. Oh, a little bit of contact made there. Heading up the hill towards the corkscrew. It is a ballsy passing opportunity. Both dipping it in nicely there. Beside me, I am joined by Cooper.J. How are you, Cooper?
G'day, Elliot. Good. Thanks for having me. It's really good to see, now that we're getting into the top end, some really competitive races between the two pairs, isn't it?
Yeah, speaking of, I shall get the qualifying times. So, Byron put in a 1:23.2, which is really quite a fast time for this track.
Just about neck and neck down the straight.
Yes. Oh, and Byron making the pass there. Gets on the brakes into the Andretti hairpin. A good pass there. Looks to have it all wrapped up. Now he has to just not make a mistake. Ed's qualifying time was 1 minute 27.7. So there is about 5 seconds between them. If Byron gets the chance to make this lead something more.
Looks like Byron's opening up his lead a little bit more as Ed goes into the dirt.
Well, funny you should mention that, as Byron has some in real life racing pedigree, and he holds the lap record around Lakeside for a Lotus car.
Oh, I wonder if this is similar to the Lotus that he's used to, or if it's got a bit more power.
Well, this Ferrari has 350 kilowatts, which is a little bit more than his Lotus. Driving dynamics probably aren't all that much different though. Rear-wheel drive, rear-engined.
Doesn't seem to be slowing him down at all. I think he loves it. Extra power. Looks
A
like
little bit
he's
heavier than his Lotus though, 1,240 kilos.
Oh, well, that old man Ferrari does build a heavy car.
Look at those brakes glowing red, working hard to stop that 1.2 tons of car.
Looks like Byron's managing to just open up his lead by a little bit more. He'll probably be a little bit more comfortable out in the other room.
Nice bit of flame out the exhaust. A closer race than some that we've seen today. So talk us through your race, Cooper. We saw you race before, had a little bit of a mistake into the corkscrew there, which kind of killed your race, if we're honest.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not really sure what happened. It was really set to be a great race, I think, and then the rear end just came out behind me on the downhill. I think I got too much weight over the front tyres, and that was that. I tried to fight back, but my opponent just didn't make a mistake. Nothing worse.
Yes, as I've been saying many times today, it's not a sprint, it is a marathon, and you have to make it to the end in one piece.
That's right. Luckily, it's pretty hard to not make it to the end in one piece in these cars.
Considering damage, tyre wear, fuel burn, and many other things are turned
Everything's turned off. As long as you don't flip the car, you're golden.
Ed got a little bit sideways, almost pulled a Cooper in the corkscrew there. Still, gap's less than a second, about half a second.
He's closing too.
He's really pushing, a little bit squirrely in the braking zone there. Byron's having to put in a bit of a defensive move.
Yep, Ed's certainly doing well this lap. He's managed to get that gap down from about a second to about 0.4 of a second.
Tucked into the slipstream, passing opportunity into the first corner here. Doesn't go for it. And Byron doesn't give him the opportunity. As we go in the cockpit of Ed's car there, oh, running just a little bit wide, a little bit oversteering now, saves it. Modulating the throttle on the way out.
I imagine emotions must be running high over there in the sim room.
Look at their faces, pure concentration. Byron going try hard with the gloves there. Must be a tip parried over from the real race car. Oh, Ed getting on the sausage, and it's hurt him. It's hurt him a lot. Oh, a little bit of a donut there. If in doubt, style it out.
Oh, that's hard. That really sucks for Ed.
It was a close race for 3 laps. Now his tyres will be dirty, and it will be harder than ever to catch up.
I guess you can't ever give up hope, though.
That's
There's always
right.
a chance Byron gets cocky here.
There we go, Byron onto the main straight. Byron is one of the only drivers in the field that refuses to use first gear. Maybe that's some experience from the real car. We shall not know. On the last lap now. The gap, about 10 seconds as they cross the line, so not as big a gap as we've seen today. But can he pull it back? We shall have to see.
Yeah, well, I think this is really all going to come down to Byron now. As long as he can keep calm and just finish the race, hopefully he's got this in the bag for the motoring club.
Which will put the motoring club ahead by 1 point. So you might notice in the animation, the driver is hitting the gear selector knob. However, in the simulators, the racers are using the paddles. Seems to be a faster mode. As Ed, hits that sausage again, upsets the car. We can still see Byron's car though.
Yeah, wow, Ed's really made up a lot of time.
He's really pulled that gap back. Byron must have made a mistake somewhere.
He must have missed that. This is going to be a very close finish.
2 corners remain.
Now Ed always has the option here of just ploughing into Byron.
Sending him to the shadow realm, as they say.
Looks like he might be going for it.
Coming to the line, Byron is ahead.
Oh, Ed's really closed that gap though, down to 700 milliseconds.
Just takes it. A very close race there.
And Byron has already headed off the track to get his cup of coffee.
Or a Red Bull. There we go. So with the completion of that race, Byron taking out the victory. A closer race than what we have seen today. As we get to the pointy end of these races, the quality of racing is getting more exciting.
It certainly is. I'm keen to see the, last 2 races or last race is it now?
We've got 2 races to go, so that race was worth 1 point.
Excellent.
As we hopefully will get a scoreboard soon. And so these next 2 races, so the top 4 drivers, both these races are worth 2 points each. So it is all to play for as we come into the last 2 rounds.
These are certainly going to be exciting. All right, Elliot, I have to go help them set up. Thanks for having me.
Sir.
I'll be back in a minute.
There we go. Cooper.J there, the president of the UQ Motoring Club. So again, we'll just do a quick thank you to our sponsors. So that is Computer Alliance, Intel, Cooler Masters, Republic of Gamers, Pagnian, who have supplied the simulators to the Gamers Ground, and the UQ Union Esports. And of course, we are at the Gamers Ground here today. Thank you very much for having us. All right. Yes. And we might go to a quick break here while we do a changeover of drivers and set up the next round. Thank you.
it while it's hot.
Alright, and we're commencing the second last race here. Piyapol for UQ-MC and Mitchell for UQR. This should be a very close race. Both races are very closely matched in terms of qualifying. Piyapol tries to slam one down the inside. Runs Mitchell out a little bit wide there. A little bit of contact is made. Is it fair? The adjudicators in the room shall have to figure that one out. Piyapol leaves a little bit of space into turn 3. A little bit of gravel kicked up there, but keeps it on the track.
I believe I'm supposed to be the adjudicator, so I hope they can figure it out. It looked pretty fair to me. It's just a little love tap.
There we go. You heard it here first, folks. Oh, Mitchell in the slipstream there. He's got the run, heading up the hill into the corkscrew. Oh, taking that turn 6 flat. Corkscrew really is an overtaking opportunity, but Piyapol, if you run it that wide, oh, this is going to be tight. Yep, Piyapol gives up the position there. Gap opens up to 2 seconds. He's got a bit of work to make this up now.
Not sure if he let Mitch through there intentionally, or if he just got bogged down a little bit, but...
Well, the game might have even given him a penalty for cutting the course there.
Ah, possibly.
I know in some of my qualifying laps, it didn't like when I tried to take that corner a little bit too straight.
Well, hopefully, I'm just going to chalk it up to good sportsmanship on his behalf. And,
well, there was no time gained, so...
Well, he let Mitch overtake, so I'd say that's a pretty fair penalty.
So just keep an eye on the gap there, 2 seconds. Can Piyapol bring that back? News came in just before that if UQ Motoring Club wins this race, that is game, set and match. So it's all to play for with UQ Racing here. They have to win this race to stay in the game. And so far it is looking good for them.
It's certainly been a very exciting day. I'm pretty happy with the way this is playing out.
In terms of the qualifying times, Piyapol put in a 1:23 flat and Mitch put in a 1:23.6. So on paper, the slightly slower driver, but as we've said before, you've got to be consistent. And today, that seems to be going the way of UQ Racing.
They're only 300 milliseconds apart in the qualifying, so it's really going to...
Now Piyapol running wide again into the corkscrew. That will hurt him. Now his tyres are dusty. They're probably hot now because he's trying to push to catch up, and he just simply won't have the grip.
Oh. A little bit of luck, and we may see him come back here, but as you said, I'm guessing the tyres getting a little bit dusty, possibly a little bit hot.
Well, the tyre temperature and tyre degradation in terms of the gravel are really the only things that will set these cars apart. In terms of there is no damage, there's no tyre wear as such, there's no fuel discrepancies, so the tyre temperature is really the only thing that will set these cars apart during the race.
And even the drivers are very, very closely matched, so...
Exactly.
It's just going to come down to see if they can keep their cool.
Speaking of cool, how good are these liveries? Looking very schmick.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this was actually modelled after our own Ferrari that we definitely have.
Very good. Also known as an AU Ferrari.
Yeah, well, that's right. It's a man can dream. This is what we're aspiring towards from the motoring club side of things.
It's Piyapol. It's a little bit wide as they go up to the corkscrew. A little bit of information about the races. Piyapol is 26 years old and just finished his plant biotechnology degree.
Oh, that's going to hurt him.
And he once crashed a Formula car. Which Formula car, we don't know, but he just put a Ferrari 458 GT2 car in the wall.
And that turn is so tough when your tyres aren't perfect.
That would be a tough day explaining that one to your boss.
That's right.
Mitchell, who's out in front there by about 10 seconds now. He's 21 years old, a software engineer here at the University of Queensland. He's the driver training for UQ Racing and has driven the car for the last 3 years. So he has real-world track experience, well, as does Piyapol as well. But seems that Mitchell has put it to good use here.
Seems like, unfortunately, today, yeah, Mitchell's experience is just reigning supreme. This is what
Consistency is king.
The pattern I think I'm noticing here is that the motoring club's lower drivers, obviously an exception here with Piyapol, but our lower drivers seem to have more experience putting down a single fast lap, whereas the UQ Racing Club, or UQ Racing, since they have that real-world experience of actually racing the cars, they know that they have to keep them on the track if they want to win. They can't just set one fast lap.
That's right. I'll try and get some vision of Mitchell here, out in front, heading into the final corner. He is also using the first gear tactic, proving that not all real-world drivers only use second gear.
I think I took that last corner in first gear, yeah. Unfortunately, it didn't seem to help me, but it seems to be helping these guys.
Were you also taking the corkscrew in first gear?
Yes, I was. I was braking as late as I could and going all the way down to first.
That extra power lighting up the tyres. And look at those brakes working furiously to stop that 1.2 tonnes of car. Mitchell in, turn 5. Piyapol pushing really hard. The gap's staying at about a steady 10 seconds. So he's not losing ground, but he's not making it either. As this is the final lap, it might be too little, too late.
Well, we've always got the corkscrew, which seems to be a bit of a wild card in these races. So it depends on
a very tricky corner there.
Whether or not Mitch can successfully navigate it.
Cordwell says vroom in the Twitch chat. Indeed. 6,250 RPM of vroom.
Looks like Mitch is coming around the final turn now onto the final straight.
Does he do a little slide? Yes, he does.
Looks like he will have this one in the bag for UQ Racing.
There you go, across the line, taking out the victory. Mitchell Anderson, 2 points to UQ Racing.
No celebration from Mitchell.A. See, it's a little bit strange, and Piyapol doesn't even want to finish. There we go.
Creeps across the line.
Excellent.
This will make the standings quite close, which means it's all on the line for this final race.
Mm-hmm. This is certainly going to be, we're going to be on the edge of our seats here.
Think about it. The qualifying sessions during the week, qualifying again this morning for those top drivers from each team. Probably about 10 hours all up, and it comes down to this, the final race.
Single final race. We do have to keep in mind the reason that we are pretty close neck and neck with both clubs is because of those 2 bonus points that the motoring club won with the fastest qualifying time. So another fantastic race, Elliot.
Yeah, very exciting, especially in those first few laps. Going back and forth, those overtakes. But unfortunately, Mitchell running away with the win there because unfortunately Piyapol had that little excursion into the gravel. And I mean, he kept that 10-second gap the entire race. So it would have been very close if that mistake hadn't been made. But it comes down to this final race right now.
It's very unfortunate with these short formats is one mistake and that can do it. But you can never give up because there's always a chance that the other driver does the same thing.
That's right. A few wildcard corners, the corkscrew in particular, quite a tricky one.
I've heard that it's a 9-story drop in real life.
9-story drop.
9 stories.
Oh.
It's, I suspect it'd be a lot steeper than it looks in the game.
Well, I've heard there's about a 15-metre undulation on that corner.
Oh, really?
So it's comparable to the dipper at Bathurst.
It'd be quite the roller coaster for the drivers.
Yes.
All right, well, I'm going to go help set up the next race, and I'll be back to join you.
Very good.
Thanks for having me, Elliot.
All good. And there are the drivers settling in, the fastest of the breed for both teams. Ian.X for Motoring Club and Lachlan.C for UQ Racing. Ian put in the fastest qualifying session out of anyone, coming through with a 1 minute 22.89. A truly blistering time, and the only sub-minute 23 time we have had. Lachlan, a good driver himself, put in a 1:23.5, so this will be a very close race, only about half a second separating them. Ian with the gloves there, needs to maintain grip with the wheel at all times. So, some information about Lachlan now. He is 19 years old, studying mechanical and aeronautical engineering. He's the head of aerodynamics at the UQ Racing team and enjoys chocolate milk. He's also partially deaf. So there you go. And Ian, the fastest racer for the UQ Motoring Club, and in terms of this entire competition, in terms of raw pace, he is 23 years old, studying mechanical engineering, common theme here. And he just came second in the UQ cycling race. So a multi-talented man right there. And he's a little bit country, if he does say so himself. So we'll bring up the leaderboard now. So it is 6 points to 5 in favour of the UQ Racing team, which means it really comes down to this last race. If the UQ Motoring Club win, they win. And whoever wins this race will win the competition, Cooper. How exciting.
That's right. No pressure at all for these drivers at all.
The hopes and dreams of their teams on their shoulders right here.
No pressure.
So we're about 50 seconds away.
Well, as you were saying, Ian was out for a cycle this morning, actually, so hopefully his athletics off the track can translate to his a little bit of calmness and level-headedness in the game.
Maybe he's had a Red Bull, he's got that adrenaline flowing.
Ooh, hopefully not too much Red Bull.
He's got to come back from second here, as he was the fastest qualifier, and we're running a reverse grid race. He will start second, while Lachlan is first. We're counting down, about 20 seconds to go there. Ian getting the last psych from the team.
That's right, looks like he's just deliberating on strategy there.
Just go for it. Revving up the engines now, lights coming up. Both blowing the tyres off. That second position, there must be some more grip on the track. We've been seeing the second position take the best launch most times today, as Ian has the lead already in the first corner. Runs it a little bit wide though, the gap is possibly there for Lachlan. He gets a slightly better run out of the corner there.
Ooh, looks like Ian's defending his position pretty well.
As would you.
Half a second between them at this point. Looks like Ian
in the
has
slipstream zone.
Yeah, it's interesting about that starting position. Maybe it's something to do psychologically with not worrying about the penalty for jump starting as much because you're further back.
Lachlan dropping a wheel off the track there, keeps it on though.
Bit of a dirt drop.
We'll see how that affects his grip in this corner. There you go, running a little bit wide again. Is he pushing? Has he lost some grip? The gap opening up to about 0.7, so he's lost 0.2 in that exchange. They get the cars turned into the corkscrew. Oh, Lachlan looks like he made a little bit of time up there. Gap down to 0.3 of a second. Racing really hotting up here, Cooper.
Both racers certainly taking a couple of liberties with the track here.
Oh, if the game doesn't penalise them, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, well, that's right. The rumble strips are made to be driven on.
It's only a problem when you come to overtaking. Just ask Max Verstappen.
Well, as long as we keep it clean here, hopefully
Gap's a second. Coming into the first corner, this is an overtaking opportunity should you choose to take it.
That's right, Ian braking a little bit late perhaps, running a little bit
of gravel kicked up, goes for that second apex, gets a good drive off the corner.
Gets an excellent exit out of the corner on Ian.
Oh, runs a tiny bit wide, puts up a bit of a smoke screen.
It's going to cost him a few hundred milliseconds there, but he still seems to be in the lead.
The gap to 0.3 of a second. 0.2 of a second.
This is certainly going to be exciting now, down to about 0.3
oh,
of a
Lachlan
second.
Off the track. Can he pull it back on? Does so. Doesn't go for a spin, but that has lost him about half a second. Oh, dropping another 2 wheels there. Losing the grip. Gap out to 1.2 seconds
That's got to be heartbreaking. I think Elliot, if he can keep the gap down to about a second, then he still definitely has a chance. But any more than that, and I imagine, you know, both his ego and the chances of winning are going to start to plummet.
Yes, well, if you keep within that second, a second is about the slipstream range. So if you keep within that second, especially on the straights, you do have a chance.
And he's certainly fighting back here, not giving up hope.
Look at the concentration on his face.
Both drivers not betraying any emotion on the face cams here. It's all about the driving.
They have one job to do. The hopes and dreams of both their teams rest on their shoulders, and there is only 2.5 laps remaining. The gap staying steady at about a second.
This must really be tough for Ian in front here. He must be really feeling the pressure, knowing that he can't afford to make too many mistakes.
This is edge of your seat stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Heading up the hill towards the corkscrew. Now they take it, braking just on that ripple strip. Both getting it turned in just right. Lachlan definitely takes that corner a bit quicker than Ian, hey? He gained another 0.4 of a second just then.
Well, it's definitely the turn that has been getting people today, so I think Ian may be just wanting to be a little bit cautious and maintain that lead.
Hopefully that won't come back to bite him in the backside.
Fingers crossed.
As the gap is now half a second. Lachlan making up a whopping half a second on that corkscrew.
Well, it's one thing to be 0.4 of a second behind. It's another thing to be able to get past them without hitting them and spinning them.
That's exactly right, especially when you're on the limit, as the drivers are now.
Oh, Ian taking that one a little bit wide, coming back to defend nicely.
Right in overtaking zone is Lachlan now. 2 laps to go. He doesn't have all that much time.
I think I can definitely see the pressure getting to Ian a little bit here.
Yeah, he's not defending exactly. Lachlan did drop 2 wheels on the gravel there, lost himself 0.3 of a second. But like, as we know, he takes the corkscrew a little bit faster. Let's see if he goes balls out and makes some time back this time around as we head up the hill along the Rahal Straight to the corkscrew as we speak. Our free helicopter there, getting all of the footage.
Into the corkscrew they go. Ian running a little bit wide, looking like
Lachlan getting a little bit sideways as well. Didn't manage to make up any ground. Still 0.8 of a second.
I guess that's a pretty good result for Ian then. He's managed to keep his gap that he had there. But I think Lachlan really has a chance, especially in this last lap.
That's right. Last lap. The gap is about a second. All to play for.
Both drivers keeping calm. Looks like Lockie's having a few choice words over there.
A little bit of gravel being kicked up. .3 seconds the gap. Ian extending his lead just a little bit.
Well, Elliot, I'd say this is going to come down right to the final corkscrew. I think this one corner is really going to decide the race.
You might be right. Not just the race, but the entire championship. Lachlan, little short shift on the Rahal Straight. How's he going to take this corner? Hits the apex nicely, runs it just wide enough. He's gained 0.2 of a second since the start of this lap. But this is where he has to make up the ground at the corkscrew. Ian gets it turned in just enough. Oh, Lachlan, a little bit of a shortcut. And he's put it in the wall. Oh, no. That is UQ Racing, their hopes, their championship in the wall right there. 4 seconds to make up with a few corners to go. That might be the race and the championship all sewn up.
Lachlan gave it his all there. He really tried to make up that little bit of time, but in the end, he traded it away.
There you go. Ian coming down the straight to take the victory for himself and the UQ Motoring Club in the inaugural UQMC versus UQR eChampionship.
That's right,
And
Ian.
some lovely donuts there. Oh, look at that.
And he's definitely deserved those, I think. That was a outstanding performance from both drivers.
Very little mistakes made from both. Truly top-notch quality driving from both drivers, as you should expect in the pinnacle race of this championship. That was incredibly exciting, Cooper.
Yeah, wow, that was shocking. I think it really honestly came down to that start, though, when Ian jumped ahead like that.
Yep,
Had that
straight
tiny
around,
bit of
had
a-
the lead at the first corner.
Yeah, and that was Lachlan was fighting pretty hard on those first couple of turns, but he just couldn't sneak back past. Great stuff.
So all of that, over 10 hours of qualifying and racing for the final race to be decided by just 4 seconds.
That's right. Really, for the final race to be decided by one corner, the corkscrew.
Yes.
All right, well, this has been the first event that we've run here with the Gamers Ground and XP Esports, so I'd like to give a huge shout out to them for having us along today, providing the simulators and the facilities. They've really done a bang-up job.
Yep, I'd like to second that. And also thank our other sponsors, Computer Alliance, Intel, Cooler Master, Republic Gamers, and obviously Pagnian for supplying those simulators, and the Gamers Ground for having us here today.
And don't forget that Pagnian has also supplied a $150 gift card that will be going to Ian for his outstanding performance in that last race.
There you go. Very well done to UQ Motoring Club and Ian. A very, very exciting race today.
And of course to Red Bull for keeping us energized.
That is exactly right. Hopefully we can get the final scores up here in a minute.
Just a second. Looks like the Red Bull may have given a few of the cars too many wings into that corkscrew there.
Yes, we did see a few mistakes made into there. It's a very tricky corner to get right.
Well, I know for me it was just heartbreaking just having the rear end come out like that and seeing the race get away from me. So
I might have to get a replay of that and send it to you.
Yeah, thanks.
Frequently.
Yeah, sweet. Put that on my resume.
Yes.
Very unfortunate, but a great day nonetheless. Things, for the most part, went off without a hitch.
Alrighty, so just recapping the lineup for each team, we have Garry.W, Cooper.J, Aaron.T, Scott Groom, Byron Maxwell, Piyapol.P Muni, and Ian.X taking home the victory there. And their contestants, the UQ Racing Club. UQ Racing. So Callum.M, James Peterson, Felix.M, Bradyen.K, Ed.H, Mitchell.A, and Lachlan.C. So, just recapping what we were racing on and with today. The Ferrari 458 GT2 car, a 4.5 litre naturally aspirated V8, 350 kilowatts, and a 6-speed sequential gearbox with 1,200 kilos curb weight, and the track was Laguna Seca.
In the beautiful USA.
With that all-important, exciting corkscrew, keeping us on our toes today in the racing.
Was, Elliot, do you know, I believe there were 2 tracks in America. One was selected for F1 and one was rejected. Laguna Seca was one of those 2, but I can't remember which was which.
I believe it got rejected.
Laguna Seca.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. I think
Simply
they
because
determined.
that corkscrew is very gnarly.
Yeah, that's lethal. Definitely. It's such a shame because it's such a great track and I'd really love to see more cars on it in real life.
Well, we'll have to get there one day.
That's right.
Here we go, and the final leaderboard, it ends up being 9 points for the UQ Motoring Club and 6 points for UQ Racing. So Ian picking up 4 points for the UQ Motoring Club there, with his 2 points from the fastest qualifying time and also the 2 points from winning that final race. So the race victors from today: Callum beat Garry, James beat Cooper, Aaron beat Felix, Scott beat Bradyen, Byron took the victory against Ed, and then Mitchell brought back the UQR team, 2 points against Piyapol there, which put it all down to the line, where Ian took out Lachlan in the very final round to give the win to the UQ Motoring Club.
And it's certainly interesting, isn't it, looking at the way that people have won the event. We really had a strong a strong amount of support from UQ Racing to begin with, and honestly I thought that they might have gotten away from us a little bit.
Well, it was
I guess
looking very much in their favour of the first 2 races. 4 points on the board straight away.
Yeah, definitely. I know I can't speak for Garry, but I am not a huge racer. I put down a few laps in Assetto every now and then, but I think in that respect the UQ Racing guys really had the consistency there. Anyway, thanks for having me along today, Elliot.
No worries.
I think that's about it.
And thank the viewers for watching us today and dealing with my rambling commentary. Again, thank you to our sponsors. Thanks to the Gamers Ground for having us here today. And thank you for watching. This was the UQMC versus UQR eChampionships. My name's Ed.H. Thank you.
And I'm Cooper.J. Stay tuned.
Enter into a new dimension of creation. The power to design, animate, and edit. Cool and quiet as you create, with breathtaking graphics performance. The way you create will never be the same.